Hey guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of digital and creative media works. Each week we take something from pop culture and try to break it down to better understand it. My name is David.
My name is Ben.
And this week it's our first inaugural live episode, so if you're either listening to this on the iTunes feed or seeing it on the YouTubes, you could have seen this live if you had the little bell, whatever the fuck YouTube's doing now.
Doesn't inaugural mean like
The
first of the year? Doesn't inaugural imply
No, that would be
once
the
a year?
Well, inaugural just means first.
Just means first?
Because annual
Okay.
is
So
what
the
means
inaugural annual. It's not the inaugural annual.
Well, it could
it's
be
the
annual.
inaugural weekly.
It could be the
We could do
inaugural
this
annual.
annually.
Yeah, we won't. But
See you
we're
next
trying
year.
Yeah, see you next year, bitch. Podcast over.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in the middle of meeting month. Last week we tackled one of my favorite films, and I think by the end of it, I talked Ben around into sort of at least enjoying
Well,
what it was trying to do.
at least not hating it the same amount that I did before the
Yeah.
episode.
We have a treat this week because we get to cover something that we both dearly love.
Hooray!
Because this week we are talking about the meaning of Hotline Miami.
I'm gonna move that because you made a noise.
Oh, is this why you start to parent me on my own podcast?
Yeah.
Well, our own podcast. Excuse me.
Daddy Ben in the house.
Papa Ben.
I'm sorry.
So Hotline Miami, which is a top-down shooter, was made by Denaton Games, published by Devolver Digital, came out in 2012.
Yes.
Sequel, Hotline Miami 2, is not available in Australia, so we're not going to be talking about it.
Yeah, even though I've played it,
Mhm.
you've played it, we've all played it, but
I've watched someone play it.
I've actually played it.
I'm just bad at pirating stuff. So
Right.
I was like, I'm fine, you know.
So the developers said that for the second game, they were just like, if you're Australian,
if you
just
can't
pirate
get
it.
just pirate it. Which makes sense. I think that makes sense.
Because it's not like they got sales anyway.
No.
I think there was a period of time where it was like, it might have come around and gotten a rating, but
I think it maybe came out, then the ESRB dinged it or something like that.
we don't have the ESRB.
Or what is it? The it's not
Australian Ratings Board.
the A.
I don't think there's an acronym.
AR.
It's just the Australian Ratings Board.
ARB.
It's not the ARB.
Okay. So before we get into the summary and then we dive into some of the meaning, I wanted to read you a quote, which is something we just started doing to kick off the show. I just think it gets our brain juices flowing.
Sure.
Wish I hadn't said the word brain juices out loud, but it's too fucking late for that. I apologize for saying that one with my human mouth. Okay, so I'll read you a quick quote to get us started. This quote comes from the Philosophy and Video Games blog, and it's from a post which is Violent Instincts and Hotline Miami. And the post just kind of talks at a top level about like what the game is trying to say. Does a decent job, but
Right.
has a quote that I think really encapsulates like the stuff that we were interested in the first time we talked about this game. Jacket puts on a mask when he kills, one of many, as if it is the mask that is committing the violence. We see this all the time in real life, mostly to avoid public censure and criminal charges, but there is a psychological element to it as well. Putting on a mask allows a person to draw upon parts of their personality that they feel that other people would disapprove of. He wants to hide himself to avoid censure, but I don't think he feels guilty. The mask is just a way to hide himself from society and be what he wants to be. In one of his surreal dream sequences in which he speaks to the manifestations of his various masks, one comments, "You're not a very good person, are you?" I think this represents the distance the Jacket knows society feels for him, even as it praises him in the newspapers for his war on crime. This is the basic conflict at hand. I think the Jacket first saw a threat when he heard the phone message and got in his car and drove to the subway, but then he saw something else. An opportunity. End of quote. And I like that because it taps into sort of like the basic game is quite simple as far as like what it's trying to do with its message.
Right.
But I think it gives you the opportunity to like, especially with the masks and stuff, and then the different layers of like actual stories going on and reality and all that kind of stuff. I just like it when someone can pretty like effectively be like, oh, well, the mask is a mask, but also just a mask. Like it's not that complicated.
Yeah, I guess a lot of mixed feelings about this game coming back to it. Like when you play this game, you sort of get such a idea of like sort of this scale and this scope of the story that it's trying to tell, where it's trying to do all these sort of intricate things and all of these intertwining sort of little nods here and there, and things are really weird, and it's you're trying to sort of piece together like what it all means. But so I played the game a bit earlier in the week, and today and yesterday I sort of did a sort of brief research on so I sort of just looked at like story synopses.
And what was it like going back to it then after all this time? Because that's what I really would love to find out from you.
Well, I mean, I find it easier.
The game itself, it is easier when you go
Yeah,
back. Yeah,
I think just-
I
just-
certainly found it easier.
It's like riding a bike. You never really forget how to
Yeah,
ride
you
a
never
bike.
forget how to do.
So
good
like,
maneuver.
the first few missions you kind of like flounder a bit, but then you just kind of get back into the groove of it,
right?
and you sort of re-catch up to how fast it is.
Yeah, sure.
But
But as far as like the actual like,
I think in terms of like the story, when you're playing it, all of the moments have so much more impact because of just the general theming and sort of the state of mind that you're in when you're actually playing it. That if you just do like if you just read the synopsis of the story or just like watch videos of just like, yeah, explain Hotline Miami, which I did do because I was like, what do other people think
I've got
about
some
this story?
responses to a few of those. So
Yeah, like you watch those videos, you're like, man, this game's story sucks.
yeah,
Like,
it's
nothing happens.
Nothing happens, but there's a sense. Yeah,
Like it's
really
literally
interesting.
just like, the sort of, I guess, quote unquote subplot of the sort of the girl that you end up kind of saving / kidnapping.
the kind of quote unquote girlfriend.
Yeah.
Character.
Like when these videos, when they explain it, she's just like, once she just pops up for one sentence every 10 sentences because that's about her sort of presence in the game. She's just there
barely there.
for a few sections when you're sort of at your apartment, and it's there's like 5 of them. You see her like 5 times in total, and then she's dead. So you're like, you write that down on paper, and it's like you see the girlfriend times 5. The girlfriend is now dead. Like that isn't good writing.
No,
But it's when you're actually playing the game and you're actually sort of putting in like
It's you
the
filling in the
inputs
blanks, right?
and the minutes and the time it takes to
Yeah.
finish each mission. It's not just Jacket walks into a place, kills some people and leaves, which is like 90% of these videos that I watched were like. Whereas like when you're playing it, it's like,
you're so
you
engaged
approach,
in what you're doing.
you pick your mask, you scout out the area, you fail a few
You
times,
die
which
repeatedly.
canonically is, I guess, not what happens. But it feels like, it almost feels like a, like when you play stealth game, it's like you learn the routes of the guards.
Yeah.
Whereas, but like that's canonically what happens. Your character sort of like stakes out the area and learns. You as the player and your character as the character both sort of
you do the
stake
same
out.
process.
They both do this sort of like figure out the best way to get through. But in this game, it's like you just die repeatedly, which is like
Until you work it out.
non-canonical.
But it's a
Until
nice
you figure
feeling.
it out, and then he just plows through and kills everyone. So like a story, like a reading of the story is just he walks into the bar, kills everyone, leaves the bar, goes get some pizza.
Yeah.
Like that's the game. But when you're playing it, it's so much more than that. I feel like just taking the story on its own is like a huge disservice to what this game is.
Yeah, I agree. But we do have to let's burn through the
So
summary.
let's talk about the story.
So let's quickly summarize the story and then get to the good stuff. No, I completely agree. Okay, so this is just a quick summary. Set in 1989 Miami, the game follows the unnamed silent protagonist, Jacket,
Murder's Jacket, yeah.
known as Jacket by the community, who was instructed via voicemail to investigate a shipment of cookies, after which he finds a package outside his front door with a rooster mask and the goal of performing a hit on a group of criminals in order to retrieve a briefcase.
And then throw it in the garbage.
Yeah. Each chapter then follows Jacket heading to various locations at the request of similar voicemails. As Jacket, you butcher entire mob gangs and groups of criminals, all the while intercut with visions of 3 masked figures. Richard in a rooster mask, Rasmus in an owl mask, and the nicer Don Juan, ironically wearing a horse mask. In between missions, Jacket visits various locations where his friend, Beard, offers encouragement and free samples and food. Some of these names the community's made up. He's not actually called Beard.
Yeah.
Jacket then saves a woman at a movie producer's estate, kills a lone biker, and reality slowly unravels as the game progresses. You start to see visions of other masked killers who have died during certain missions, and Beard even abruptly gets killed off-screen, replaced by Richter, a terse man who offers very little help. After returning home one day, Jacket finds his girlfriend killed by a figure in a rat mask. The rat mask then shoots Jacket dead. The man in the rat mask then shoots Jacket dead. Jacket wakes up in a hospital seeking vengeance, heading to the police headquarters to find the attacker who was in custody. As it turns out, Richter is the attacker. He's also been leaving cryptic voicemails from the same mob source, instructed to clean up after Jacket's massacres. So Richter is the one like cleaning up your bloody messes you're leaving.
Yeah.
Jacket then heads to the mob headquarters and kills everybody there, thus avenging his dead girlfriend. The game ends here, but there is an epilogue where you play as the biker, a boss that you kill earlier in the game. Biker is disillusioned with following the mob's instructions and decides to track down the source of the mysterious voicemails. He raids the phone company, tracing the source of the calls to a nightclub. After doing every murder, you discover it's 2 janitors who have been making the voicemails in the basement. If throughout the rest of the game you've uncovered enough secrets, you can crack a computer in the basement to discover that the janitors worked for 50 Blessings, a perceivably peaceful business that is secretly dismantling an alliance between America and the Soviet Union. Roll credits.
Yeah, so there's also the biker that you play as in the epilogue is the same biker that Jacket kills about halfway through the game. And as biker, you do halfway through his kind of epilogue or fairly early on, it is the same biker. You actually do meet Jacket.
Yes, that's what I mean by earlier
You
boss.
fucking destroy him.
You murder the crap out of him with a golf club.
Like
right?
it's no, so Jacket kills biker with a golf club. It's a really hard boss fight, and like
what were you describing, or
so Jacket kills. Yeah, you had it the wrong way. So Jacket kills biker, and it's like a really hard boss fight. And then as biker, when you meet Jacket, you just kick him in the face, and he just fucking dies immediately.
Yes.
So there's sort of like this idea of like either of them are sort of unreliable narrators.
Cool. Yes.
Probably Jacket because he's in a coma.
Can we talk about reality yet, or are you building to that? Because I fucking love how this game fucks with reality.
Let's talk about reality.
So when you first pitched this game to me, you were like, you're probably gonna struggle because it's like a top-down shooter. You were like,
and it's pretty hard, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you may struggle with
like Dark Souls of top-down shooters.
It's the Dark Souls of Yep, because games can't be their own thing. Everything has to be related to Dark Souls. Yeah. I agree. So when you first pitch it, you're like, you may not like the gameplay itself, but you might be invested in some of the concepts that it explores, like vis-a-vis when you do good murders.
Yeah.
Reality kind of starts to break apart, and there's some interesting ideas there. So
and the music's good.
Wow, the music is fucking hot to trot, mate. So there's a few like really basic things that the game comments on that aren't like especially clever or like intriguing or deep. So I just want to hit those quickly so we can move into stuff.
Get them out of the way.
So it's clearly a commentary on violence by providing you a hyper-competent player character who very quickly embraces his murder side.
Yep.
It takes the man with no name killer tropes a la Assassin's Creed Hitman to their logical conclusion. All of these people put on masks and assume roles, just in this game it's literal.
Yep.
This contrasts with the bloody violence and the fact that you die very quickly. It's realism, it's taking the absurd and contrasting it against realism. The most basic reading here that most people bring to the game is that violence is a great fantasy in Western society, but is ultimately meaningless. There is ostensibly no direction to the violence in the game, just that Jacket really likes to do good murders.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It also seems to imply that the hitman trope isn't limited to psychopaths, but rather that we all have the psychological desire to be Jacket. We're all playing the game. The music and the pacing get you into the game, and you kind of, as you were saying, like when you're playing the levels, you get into that like the tactical headspace, and like you get into like the if you were going to do good murders, that's how you get into
that flow state.
That hashtag flow state.
Yeah, everything you've said is kind of like what the second game just very sort of blatantly says as well, which is really funny because the second game is very much sort of the second game sort of, I don't know, blankets top and tails bookends.
Bookends is the word.
It bookends the first game where it has sort of prequel sections. It has actually a few sections during Hotline Miami 1, and it has a few after. And it goes over all of that. It touches on the whole, like, there's a bit of madness in all of us. Fucking Mr. Joker Boy. It touches on...
Hashtag jokes.
It touches on, like, it gets very, like, Fight Clubby, where, like, a lot of the play characters are they're, like, fans of Jacket. So like Jacket gets like a fan club, or he gets people who are like hell yeah, like that. It's like Project Mayhem kind of thing, Fight Club, where it's like fight the power.
Yeah, man. Is it Brad Pitt that's in that one?
Oh, he's
Fight
Jacket.
Club.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So in that role, Brad Pitt is like the Jacket figure.
Yeah, Brad Pitt is Jacket. Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
And like they're all like the kids, and they're like, we're gonna blow shit up and kill mobsters. Yeah. Ridiculous. So like that, and like the second game gets very meta, but we're not talking about the second game. We're talking about the first game.
Okay, so let me segue from that into some of the stuff that maybe because I've got 3 arguments that we can pick from that we can talk about.
I love you giving me this choice.
Yeah, it's
so we're probably gonna get through all 3 of them, but
it's more of an order. So I've got the reality and the Matrix conversation, the Kanye West conversation, or essentialism and action heroes.
Let's start with that one because I feel like those other 2 are a bit weird.
It's fucking weird. Okay, so to segue from that, I wanted to read you a quote from Reddit user Muck Racker Joe, who I think encapsulates the exact thing you're talking about, where it's like, that reading doesn't say anything especially interesting about society, I don't think. Violence is bad, but we all wish we could do good violence. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit.
That's just do fencing.
Yeah.
It's like it's great.
So Muck Racker, so Joe says, Hotline Miami has a large and excessive amount of violence, but unlike other games, it has a sense of realism and or self-awareness. Stuff kills you 2 hits tops, even if you have armor. Some have psychological problems, and all are killed abruptly. It's almost making fun of other games for their excessive and seemingly unneeded amount of violence, with no sense of realism. And the game makes it very clear that the violence is meaningless. Everyone you ever meet gets nothing in the end from their violence, except possibly 50 blessings, but even they're the antagonists, so I think it makes sense for the game to ultimately be saying that nothing matters. Which I don't disagree with. I just think
that's a very Rick and Morty.
Well, everyone on the internet's a nihilist now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's I think that falls into the same trap where you just. I mean, this game is hard to talk about now. Like in 2012, it was fine because that was the new thing.
Well,
like,
we're post Rick and Morty.
We're in a post Rick and Morty world where you can't talk about nihilism without acknowledging the elephant in the room.
Thanks, Dan Harmon.
That is like that. Where like nihilism is pointless.
I love you, Dan Harmon, but you ruined it for the rest.
You
of
ruined
us.
internet discourse for people like us on the internet to feel important about because we knew what nihilism was.
Too good of a writer, and he's ruined it. For
we knew how to pronounce French philosophers' names.
Oh God, wait, did he? Wait, are we being like philosophy hipsters now? Is that what we've done?
Yeah.
Fuck,
Yeah.
that's
We're
sad.
being
That's fine.
philosophy hipsters.
I'll fucking own it. Okay, so essentialism and action heroes. I'm interested to get your reading on this. This came from when I was playing it. There's a particular moment where Jacket is scrapbooking throughout the game in the coma section when you realize that you wake up afterwards and you're not sure if it was actually real or if it was his like delusions of his memories. He's not only collecting the newspaper articles of his like of his the news reacting to his murders, but he's actually scrapbooking them as well, which I thought was kind of crazy. This was what kind of led me down this rabbit hole. It's about this idea of like essentialism and the action hero in like Western canon. So like the gameplay in this game is extreme with a big X. Like it's extremely violent. Everything dies extremely quickly. The bosses are extremely hard. You kill a lot of people extremely murdery. You know,
you kill an extreme amount of people extremely.
The way that I always think about this game is it's like a combination of Rambo and James Bond, where you kill a shitload of people, you save the girl, and she kind of hangs around and is maybe your girlfriend, and when she gets killed, it creates the third act turn. So it's like blow for blow every fucking action story in all of Western canon.
Yeah.
But by taking all of these ideas to like their natural extreme. So you know how in James Bond, it's like the damsel in distress often, they flirt like twice, and then she's on screen for the rest of the film and he suddenly cares about her. Right. It's that, but even more extreme. As you said, like you see her 5 times or whatever. Yeah. Like they have nothing in common. They don't seem to have a relationship.
She just kind of exists.
She's just there.
Right? I saw one of the videos I saw was sort of talking about how like, oh, you know, at first she's like locked into she's like in the bathroom. She's like locked in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And then like, then she's on the couch, and then she's like, then like the apartment is like more cleaned up because it means that she's getting more used to know you. It's like, or it's just,
or she just had a bath.
Yeah, or it's just she's having a bath and just maybe just got sick of living in Jacket's filth. Right. And,
but then
like I think
isn't there also here's a dirty grubby man. Isn't there a correlation to be drawn though between the way that when we watch films and stuff, because this comes back to that thing of reality where like if you showed someone those 5 different stages of, or those 5 different images of them spending time together, your brain wants to fill in the gaps with, oh, they have a relationship, like they're like, do you know what, like, and if it was an action hero film and they did those 5 scenes,
you'd be like, oh, they're
getting closer together.
Yeah, they'd have a relationship montage.
Right.
This is just, it's a relationship montage that's just got like intercut with just like murderous rage.
Yeah, well, that's like what James Bond is as a franchise. If you think about it,
if you take all the films,
well, I'm talking like Daniel Craig's run at least,
right?
Because that potato headed man kills a lot of folks.
Where it's just secretly just like a Jason Bourne film.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point as well. Yeah. And the takeaway from that, which isn't especially exciting, but I think touches on that trope, is that basically the idea is like, the kind of, dude with no name, badass action hero thing is like silly and dumb. And because the game is self-aware of that, it doesn't really reject it. It just goes, hey, isn't all this insane that we all think this is like a normal way to interpret reality? And like even the fact that there's a scoring system even though it's a video game, like suggests something about the nature of how we view violence in media. This isn't my reading, but like it's okay if it's a game because it's like a safe outlet for the desire to murder. But the game doubles down on that by agreeing and being like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you gotta get those points.
Yeah.
But then you got games like Hatred, where it's like that's like the triple down. That's where it's like, you know, we're gonna give you points, we're gonna give you scores, but we're gonna actually make the main character like a mass shooter. Like, you've seen the Hatred video game?
I don't. Is that the?
It's the one that got like where like the trailer for it is really cringy, where it's just like, I'm gonna wipe the scum off this earth known as humankind. It's like they're gonna know my name. It's just the worst.
You just stop barfing.
Yeah, it came out like right sort of like smack bang and like the school shooting.
Oh,
scare.
is that the one where you fight the devil as the final boss, or am I thinking of something else?
I think it's something else. No, okay. This one's just like it's like a top down shooter. It's like Hotline Miami, but like shittier and like a lot more like. It's just like black and white, like trying to be really gritty.
Yeah,
like that game was like sort of they were like, oh, it's satire, when it's like
satire. It's like, really, no, you just wanted to do murders.
You just wanted to sort of be this weird cringy thing. It's like a.
But so do you think that this game falls into that category, or it takes it to the next?
I don't think it does, because it's so like, even the the music and the sort of the aesthetics are just, they're so like
precise,
sort of they're so like not trying to be gritty. Like it's not like like a Predator film, or like, I don't know, I thought Predator. You said Arnie, I think. You said Rambo, and I thought Arnie.
Yeah,
it's not like it's not like that sort of like gritty, dark, moody. It's like it's quite bright and vibrant. It's, just with a lot of red.
Have you played the game with the darkness mask on? It's one of my favorite ways to play. It's where it makes everything like, instead of, it takes all the color away, it makes everything like pulsing red and black, as if everything's in like a power out. It's one of the greatest ways to play the game, because I
don't think I have.
You have to.
Is it like a super late unlockable?
It's not that late, but it makes the game much harder.
I must not have used it, because I think when I play that game, I just use like one or two masks. Because I really like.
The reason I brought that up is when I put that mask on and it changes the way that the aesthetic works, the music and the violence then also change.
Right.
So instead of in the game where it's this hyper colorful, like, you punch a dude into a wall and then you punch his face in and there's blood everywhere.
It's kind of just like a bit more.
In the darkness one, it's all pulsing red and black. So when you beat someone into a wall and you gut them with a knife, the blood is like black and red, and you can't really see what's like, who's a person, who's a body, where the blood is, where the violence is, and it gives it this kind of like the scenes in Kill Bill where it's like,
oh right,
the whole game feels like that. And it has this, it's really weird. Like, I get way into it.
Right.
Like, I play that with like headphones on at like full volume, just like I get real into it. And there's something to that of like, I think there's a precision to the way that they made the game that makes it feel not like a clumsy metaphor or like an allegory for anything. It just is what it is.
Yeah, like there's no real sort of like allegory that you can take from this game, which is good, because allegory is the worst.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
Laura and I talked about that in our Tolkien podcast.
Because Tolkien talks about it a lot.
Yeah, he's obsessed with it. So speaking of allegory, do you want to hear a dumb one that someone proposed?
Absolutely. I feel like this whole, we should do a show where we should do a show where we just get bad bad metaphors,
bad readings and stuff.
And just have a giggle.
Okay, so this one is the Kanye West argument.
The Kanye West theory. The fucking Yeezy theory.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I gotta limber up. Okay. The basic comparison is that Hotline Miami is a postmodern criticism of video games.
Sorry, you can't just say postmodern. you can't just say postmodern.
Okay, so postmodern.
I know what postmodern is.
Yep.
But postmodern, that's not a thing. So postmodern.
Okay, so postmodern is the idea of like, so modern culture says XYZ about the world. So
postmodern sort of ironically says XYZ, but it's ironic with a capital I. No, but yeah.
Yeah, so yes. So modern is like Sex and the City says X about culture.
Right.
Postmodern is, we made a sitcom that makes fun of, in an ironic way, the tropes put forward by Sex and the City. Postmodern is something that is ironically making fun of the irony of the thing that was making fun of the original product. In so doing, agreeing with and remythologizing the tropes of the original product.
So as postmodern people who are like, Rick and Morty is actually a very deep and thoughtful show.
No, that would be postmodern because the show is already out. Oh no, yeah.
No, because postmodern is like, no, Rick and Morty is dumb and stupid.
No, because
current current society, like we live in a society, David, where
Rick and Morty again. This happens
where
every
like
episode.
philosophical debate is like the norm.
Yes.
Because you have Twitter.
Oh no, you're right. So the show, what you're saying is, when people watch the show, they go, "Oh,
the show's
like
really deep."
Yeah, the show's really deep because it's postmodern.
Really
but
deep,
the show's really postmodern because all it's saying is
it's just
be
modern.
a Jerry. Oh, it's
The
just
show
modern.
is just modern. The
I'm gonna do my head in. Look, let me get through this because it's really dumb. But the basic idea is like you go so far back on a trope that that
it just wraps around. It becomes
it becomes about the thing
it's
that
It's just
it says
it's
nothing.
Just negative.
It's just so in this
Cancels
case.
out.
In this case, it like in
So,
Hotline
let's talk about-
Miami, it says like the violence is it just says violence is violence. Like it also like the postmodern reading is violence is just violence. It has no deeper meaning. So
Kanye.
the connection they've drawn to
geez.
Kanye West is that Kanye West is so postmodern, it makes my brain hurt.
He's so postmodern.
Because he's either a lunatic, which he might be, I don't know, or he's super postmodern. So the argument that this YouTuber made, whose name I don't have in front of me because I didn't want to like fucking call him out on this show.
Sure.
But if you Google Kanye West and Hotline Miami, he'll come up. So in the song, this is just an example that I had off the top of my head because I was listening to Kanye in research for this. So in Kanye's song, I Thought About Killing You, he tells the story in like a kind of ironic way about like he loves himself so much, and the other day he was thinking about killing you. In this case, it would be his partner. He doesn't really say who. And then he goes on to then like critique his opinion about that stuff, where he's like, but if I was being honest and I was trying to like gain support, I'd say that, you know, these 5 things is what led me to think about killing you. But the truth is I just love myself more than you, and I think about killing myself all the time. And it's just like, there's all these layers, but ultimately the layers wrap around to just be like, yeah, Kanye West just really likes himself.
Right.
But like the song makes it try and seem really like these different layers and shit. And when you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, Kanye just likes himself and likes thought experiment. Like it's not this deep kind of crazy thing. And that was the connection he drew between this game and Kanye West, which I don't disagree with, but I just think like,
I mean, if you like, you
that's
could do
true
that,
of everything.
You could do that with a lot of things.
Yeah, that
you
could
know,
do
like
any reading.
that. Like it's not. That's kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, from a perspective of that idea that if you push hard enough, you'll wrap around, you'll appear on the other side. You know, it's Poe's law, or it's in horseshoe politics.
Yeah, we talk about that. A lot.
So I like. I can kind of get behind that, but I don't like why Kanye. There's plenty of other artists.
I just think because he's big and it gets you clicks. I don't know. Okay, can we get into the meat of this? Because I fucking want to talk about Beau
with
Triarch.
the few minutes that we ever made.
I'll make it work. I want to talk about the reality and the Matrix problem of this game, because reality is a big part of.
As in, like the Matrix with a capital T and capital N.
It's related
2001.
to that. Yeah, it's related to that.
Warner Brothers.
Sorry.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. The Matrix featuring Keanu Reeves and. I've forgotten all the other actors. Help me out. Lawrence Fishburne.
I was gonna say Lawrence Fishburne.
The guy who plays Red Skull.
Oh yeah, Mr. Smith.
He's in that one.
Yeah. He also plays an elf in the Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, he's Elrond.
Yeah.
So as we kind of touched on before, there's an idea in the game about like kind of reality breaking down. So there's a half of the game that happens when you're in the coma. Theoretically, or it's real and he's misremembering it. And then the other half of the game is theoretically in reality, but stuff happens in that seems unlikely as well.
Yeah.
But it seems less unlikely because it's kind of, if it's an unreliable narration in the first half, like the second half feels more realistic because he paints himself as being vulnerable. Like, he's sick and he can't
Well, in
walk
the second
and stuff.
half, it just kind of wraps through to the conclusion real quick. Like the first half is full of all of the sort of inciting incidences. Mm-hmm. Which are all the weird ones and all of the crazy shit that goes on, and it culminates in him getting shot. And you're like, oh no,
my boy got shot.
And then that's the act 3, and it just rolls to the conclusion really quick. Yeah. And then you have the epilogue, which just comes around and goes, hey, do you remember that story?
Remember that crazy story?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I think the second half or whatever, the post coma is probably fairly accurate.
Agreed. So let's talk about Plato.
Jesus
and
Christ.
Baudrillar. So one of the things that, Baudrillar, I can never fucking pronounce his name properly, he's French. But he wrote I can never, Simulacre and Simulacron, which is what the Matrix is based off. Long story short, basically the idea is like, how do you know what is reality? And that's something this game seems to be really intrigued by in its own way, because you got the unreliable narration, or, you know, is it simulation by his coma, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So do you know about Plato's cave allegory?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you
I
who
did watch a YouTube video once.
Okay.
About Plato's
For
cave.
those of you who want like a quick summary, basically Plato asks you to imagine a cave where people have been imprisoned from birth. The prisoners from birth are chained by the neck and legs in such a way that they can only look straight ahead at the wall in front of them, not around at each other or at the cave or anything. So they're born and they can only look forward. Behind the prisoner is a wall, and on the far side of the wall is a fire. People hold objects between the above the fire, behind the wall, walking back and forth, effectively creating like shadow puppets where the prisoners are looking. And the sounds that people communicate with as they go through and do this, the prison is assigned to being like from the shadows. Plato then says, suppose one of the prisoners is freed. They would look around and discover the fire, first of all, and the light would like burn their eyes and it would hurt. And if you then told them what they're now seeing is real, they would struggle to kind of adjust to this. There's even this suggestion that some people would return to the shadow puppets out of fear.
Yeah.
Then suppose you drag this free prisoner out of the cave and into the real world. After a long adjustment period, the free prisoner would eventually realize they now live in the real reality with the sun and everything, and they go outside.
Do they? Ba-ba-ba.
Yes, but also no.
I finished your bit for you.
Yes, but also no.
No, don't say that. It's just yes.
Over time, the free prisoner would pity those remaining in the cave and desire to free them as well. So then suppose the prisoner goes back into the cave to free the others. They would struggle to see in the darkness because they'd been outside for so long, and the other prisoners would perceive that leaving this reality has blinded this freed prisoner and has harmed them, and therefore they would like resist escape. TLDR, like we tend to resist changes in our perception, especially to our reality, and assign anything that doesn't agree with our reality as being like things that are bad for us. So in Hotline Miami, Jacket constantly ignores science as reality is fake. He never pays for anything when he goes to restaurants. Beard works everywhere.
Beard, yeah.
The masked men in the living room take on the role of those attempting to free Jacket in a way.
Yeah.
So in Plato's allegory, this would be like taking one of the prisoners aside and then once a day explaining a little bit to them about the outside world until they're ready to leave. But then they just don't because they're so stubborn that you have to like shoot them in the head, I guess. Like
sure.
when that's when you drag them out, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you have to like force them out of the cave. And I think there is something interesting in that because clearly, like, whilst it isn't a one-to-one parallel, when you play the game, even, you know, the way that the violence works versus, like, in the early levels versus the later levels, it is awfully convenient that as the levels go on, you get better weapons at the start of levels and then enemies don't. Whereas, like, at the start of the game, everyone kind of has, like, the same shit as you, like, they mostly have pipes and knives and stuff.
Yeah.
And then as you go on, everyone gets guns. And then it scales back when you're in the real world, where everyone has, like, more realistic shit on them. So, like, one dude in one room has a gun, and then 3 dudes in the other room have, like, baseball bats or pipes or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have 3 dudes with assault rifles hanging out together.
Just
So,
being
like,
bros with their assault rifles.
yeah, like, you just wouldn't bro it up with an assault
Yeah.
rifle. So it feels a touch more realistic the further, like, after you wake up. Is that something that you picked up when you were playing it the first time, or is it only one of those things that when you sit back and look at it, you're like, this game is just a ripoff of Plato? Do you know what I mean? Or
I think so again, the second game does actually just sort of blow a lot of this stuff out of the water.
Mhm.
Or at least just confirm a lot of things. You know, like Beard. The character of Beard, he's actually a character in the second game.
Yep.
You know, so a lot of these readings are kind of hard once you play the second game. But yeah, I think from
it's more about like what you get from that reading.
I guess from the perspective of, you know, the pure sort of mechanical aspect of all of the characters having, well, all of the enemies having sort of, you know, more quote unquote realistic weapons. That's probably just mostly just like an accident of decent game design.
Yeah.
Because when you're sort of making a video game,
Mhm.
you know those levels where you're up against guys with knives, that's just because they're trying to teach you how to fucking play the game. When they start giving everyone guns, the level design does tend in a way where, yeah, everyone has guns, but you're never really in much danger. You know, it's always just like open a door, there's a guy with a gun, you can deal with that because there's a door. Whereas like in later levels, and especially in the second game, they'll fuck with you where they'll be like, guy with a gun, he's behind a pane of glass.
Yeah.
Have fun. Like, he'll
and
just
then
fucking
he'll just
kill you.
nuke you. Yeah.
And so I feel like in that sense,
Well,
they sort of they do the stealth game thing where they start, they've taught you how everything works, and now they're gonna
Here's a
start
little
making some
spicy
puzzles.
twist.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But
at the same time, that you could argue that that's going from a very gamey thing of everyone has knives because we're going to teach you how to deal with knives, and now everyone has guns because we're going to teach you how to deal with guns, to all right, now we're actually going to make levels based on what would probably happen.
Yeah, I struggle with that in games as well, because it, like, as we both know, like, because we've worked and we know game designers and we've made games, a lot of that stuff is nice when it's a happy accident that a reading aligns with the way that a game is designed in a like, not in a way that the designers didn't intend, but like you can still read it, like you go, oh, this is supporting evidence for that argument. But it doesn't make it true that the game designers went, oh, we stacked the game in this way for these reasons.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that the more you play this game, the more like observer bias you get with trying to connect those dots of like the reality shifting as you get further in, and you see that through like the actual game itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It all kind of ties back to that idea of violence being related to your perception of reality. And like, I don't think this game is encouraging violence in any way. I think it's actually the opposite. But one of the biggest problems you have when you put out a game that is hyper violent like this is that people react to it and they go, "Oh, this game is bloody."
Video game.
Yeah, it's like
the kids turning the frogs gay.
Right. It's like putting it's exactly it. But like, you have to believe everything, but that also means you have to believe gay frogs. Like, it's the whole argument of like, if you want to read a game in a specific way, that's fine, but like recognizing that that's what you're doing is the key thing, and acknowledging that I think a game as good as this doesn't happen by accident, but at the same time, like, the game designers didn't sit down like at Denatone Games and be like, now, Plato's allegory of the cave. They went, man, the Matrix is fucking sick. We could do like a coma.
But they still, they still set things up for the sequel. There's a lot of things in this game which are, it either just, they really, really tried to ham-fist it into the sequel, or they had kind of planned it ahead of time.
Yeah.
So there are, it's almost like they made this first game knowing that they were just going to, I don't know, just kind of break it when they released the second one, which I guess, like,
or reframe it at least.
Yeah, frame it in general.
Yeah, it felt like they were like, here's this slice of like this enigma thing.
Yeah,
and then they went, okay, here's the second one, and now it's within a.
I kind of prefer just the enigma.
I like the simplicity of. Especially with something like this, you get to interpret it in a way that you find the most interesting.
So yeah, like this whole time we've just been ignoring the second game, which gives all of the answers to every question we have. But
right,
like,
but that's
fuck
not
the second game. We haven't played it. It's illegal in Australia.
That's also not the point, I don't think, of this game. Like, I don't think that the game is trying to give you answers. It's more about like the journey of trying to like dig into it.
It's not about the destination.
It's about the journey.
About the journey.
And the murder.
The DCM work. See you next year.
We do have to wrap up the show, so have you got any recommendations for this week?
Oh shit!
Yeah, you did not. You forgot, because with all the live
playing
stuff,
a board game, a video game called Armello. It's fun.
Okay,
It's about animals and a king that is slowly dying, and you gotta run around as animals and kill each other.
Is that on the Switch or is that just on the PC?
It's on PC at the moment.
Okay,
it's got animals.
It's got animals.
It's basically a digital board game.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Was that multiplayer or like?
It might have multiplayer. I've just been playing a single player. It's got like online multiplayer, but it's the kind of thing where because it has sort of like it has an element of hidden information. We have like a hand of cards. It's hard to make those games like sort of couch co-op playable.
Yeah,
different to like I don't know. Other games.
I kind of know what you mean,
versions.
Where it's like easier.
Like some games, you don't know Jack or the Jackbox games. You have to have your phone because you have to have an element of hidden information. It's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I can attest to it being hard to do because I've actually done it for a uni for a uni project, and it sucks.
I like that. So I've just thrown to the chat if you all have any recommendations. So if anyone watching this live has anything,
if anyone has any recommendations,
drop it in the chat. I have just finished watching season 2 of American Vandal. It's still one of my favorite shows. It's so hard to explain why it's good and what it is, but basically it's a show that follows people making documentaries about crimes at school. The first one is someone draws dicks on cars, and the second one is someone makes everyone poop.
Is that
It's really good.
Is that have what's his name? The guy from like 21 Jump Street. Isn't he in that?
No, you are thinking of the Jonah Hill one. No, that's a new show with Emma Stone that's coming out soon. It's not out
It's
yet.
like a show where like
It's
he's
Maniac
drawing like dicks
or
on
Manic.
cars.
No, you what? That's
And
it's
they
not.
like accuse him of it. He's like, I didn't do it.
Yeah,
even though I
that's
drew it."
not that's not
not this?
Channing Tatum.
No?
You're thinking it's Channing Tatum. It's not Channing
It's
Tatum.
not Channing Tatum.
They could not look. Oh, they do have a very block.
Who
face.
is it?
Just some kid. He's no one. It's just no. He's not an actor. He's just a kid. Like,
Anyway, all right.
yeah,
Let's
it's
continue.
really good. I really enjoy it. It's one of the best put together shows on TV. Obviously, we just finished BoJack season 5. I just finished BoJack
Well,
season 5.
Yeah, I haven't finished it.
If you're staying for the post show, if you're a Patreon or you're seeing this live, we'll talk a bit about our initial impressions without spoiling anything about that. But I really
Without
recommend
spoiling anything. That's
Yeah.
gonna be really hard.
that. And then I also I've started because Adam suggested I start watching Ozark season 2, which I'm finally getting to, and it's really good and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But if people wanted to support us, where could they find us?
Facebook,
At DCM Works Social.
Patreon.
Patreon.
What? What am I doing? YouTube.
Patreon's the last one.
Patreon's the last one.
I was in like auto mode. I was
Yeah,
like,
you
Ben's got
were.
this.
So was I. Apparently, just the wrong order.
YouTube.com/DCMworks. If you're watching this, if you wanted to see the show live and get the exclusive bonus show, you could go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and hit
I might
the.
have to reorder.
do the
'Cause
bell
I've been,
thing.
I order them in order of importance.
I think it needs to go YouTube
So
and
I need-
Patreon now.
Yeah. Twitter,
At DCM_works.
YouTube.
We did that one. Also,
Patreon.
Patreon.com/DCMworks. We got Yoop Kumans in the chat right now. Thanks for coming out and saying hi, Yoop. Yoop also says for his recommendations, he says the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the new game that's out.
Oh.
Apparently, it's really good. Everyone's been saying it's a real like nice cap to that trilogy, and then
Yeah.
hopefully whatever they do next can be great. Everyone I've talked to has said it's fantastic, so I'm excited to see where that one goes. I'm putting in Adams for him, which is Ozark, because he told me to watch it. Suck it, Adley. I win this round. Yeah, so if you wanted to contribute live, you can go to youtube.com/DCMworks, where we're going to try and live stream this roughly this time every week, but it will
Did you say
fluctuate.
if you want to contribute live?
Yeah, like into the chat, add recommendations.
Oh, not like throw money at us in real time.
No.
Because I thought we were still talking about Patreon.
No. I haven't got to Patreon yet. And I was going to
Yeah,
say...
we have.
Well, no,
Patreon.com.
I meant like the... God, see, this is what happens.
See you next week,
is You
everybody.
ruined my plugs.
Maynard.trig.com. Buy David's book.
Jesus. Do go do that though. That would be good. No, I was just gonna say, or if you want to see the post show but you can't be here live, if you're a Patreon, you can get access to that every week. So you can go do that if you want. Help support us and do the stuff you guys normally do, the reviews and likes and comments and all that good stuff. Otherwise, if you wanted to follow us individually, I'm at DCM I Hate Pie,
I'm at Little Citrus.
and we will see you guys next week.